It's the weekend, guys, so it's time to relax and enjoy some good horror movies. So today, I am going to recommend some really amazing horror movies, which you've probably watched before, but deserve a second watch, especially this weekend. Let's get into it. If you're looking for a horror movie this weekend that doesn't rely on gore or cheap jump scares, but still gets under your skin and stays there, I've got one for you. The Blair Witch Project. Now, maybe you've heard about it, maybe you've already seen it, but I'm asking you to revisit it or experience it as if it were real, the way audiences did when it first came out in 1999. So if you want something different this weekend, something that strips horror down to its most primal level, watch The Blair Witch Project. But turn off the lights, put your phone away, and let yourself get a little lost in the woods. Next is a horror movie that feels like a slow descent into something ancient and unknowable. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Every layer reveals more questions. If you're in the mood for horror that doesn't scream but whispers and lets dread build like pressure in a sealed room, The Autopsy of Jane Doe will haunt you in ways you don't expect. And, like all great horror, it's not just about death. It's about what we inherit, what we deny, and the cost of trying to understand the things that were never meant to be known. Next is a horror movie that doesn't chase you, but waits for you to look up and realize you've been stuck in the loop all along. Meet The Endless, 2017. What's brilliant about The Endless is that you're watching two people try to figure out who they are outside of what broke them, and whether the version of themselves that stayed behind was actually more free. It becomes this cosmic horror, but without the tentacles and gore, just dread. And loops. And that sickening moment when you realize you've said these words before, and you'll say them again. The Endless is one of those rare horror films that looks low budget, but feels immense, cosmic, emotional, existential. It's not flashy, but it lingers. If you've ever felt like you're stuck in your own loop, returning to places that hurt, habits that don't heal, this one will speak to something deep and quiet inside you. This next horror movie feels cursed, but also weirdly intimate. Something that makes you feel like you're watching something you were never meant to see. Here is Late Night with the Devil. The entire movie plays out like an old broadcast, commercial breaks and all. It's weirdly fun, nostalgic even, until it isn't. Late Night with the Devil is stylish, eerie, and genuinely unsettling. But what sticks with you isn't the possession. It's the silence after the applause, the loneliness inside the lights, the monster behind the grin. So if you're in the mood for a horror movie that speaks in static, breathes in ratings, and screams through the cracks in your soul, this one's for you. This next horror movie looks like science fiction. Feels like a thriller, but leaves you with that hollow feeling only existential dread can deliver. Here is Life, 2017. This isn't about aliens, it's about us. Our curiosity, our confidence, our belief that we can contain what we don't understand. But some things aren't meant to be studied. Some doors shouldn't be opened. Some life is better left undiscovered. Life is sleek, sharp, and suffocating. It doesn't yell, it whispers until you realize you've run out of air. If you're in the mood for a horror movie that wears a spacesuit but hides a coffin, one that leaves you staring at the credits thinking, we deserved it, this one's for you. What is a horror movie weekend without some bloodsuckers? But this horror movie is more than just blood and fangs. Something tragic, erotic, and haunting in ways that feel almost sacred. Meet Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992. Forget everything you think you know about Dracula. This isn't just some monster creeping around castles. This is love, poisoned by time. Devotion, twisted into damnation. This version of Dracula, it's not about monsters. It's about what grief can do if you let it rot. It's about desire that becomes obsession. about romance so deep it claws through the grave and comes back wrong. Visually, the film is stunning. Practical effects, gothic sets, aesthetic choices that feel like a living oil painting. But beneath all that beauty is decay. Because at its heart, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a story about a man who lost someone, and in trying to bring her back, he lost everything else. So if you're in the mood for a horror movie that whispers like poetry, bleeds like tragedy, and leaves you wondering if love can be a curse, this one's for you. So these are my horror movie recommendations for the weekend. The Blair Witch Project, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, The Endless, Late Night with the Devil, Life, and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Enjoy and have a nice weekend. Tell me what you think in the comments. Did I leave any good weekend horror movie out? All right, I'm out.